Hey, true believers, Chris Mack coming at you with a Bat-tastic weekend figure review. See what I did there? Today we are going over the DC Collectibles Batman Arkham Knight Commissioner Gordon. And I was a little on the fence about picking this figure up, but I love that this Gordon looks semi-comic accurate and not because of the video game. But we'll get into that here in a minute. But first, let's just check out how cool this packaging looks, because if you look at the whole thing from the top to the sides, that is Batman's armor surrounding the packaging. So that was a really cool aesthetic choice. And then of course you get Batman Arkham Knight, DC Collectibles, number 8. And then Commissioner Gordon there on the side, and you kind of get a silhouette. I think it's of the Batmobile. It's hard to see in this lighting, but c'est la vie. And then, you know, how they have these little holes here. I always like, does the figure need to breathe like an animal? Yeah, no? I don't know. Anyway, come around here to the back, and they get a cool little silhouette of Gordon there, plus the figures that you need from the wave, so I will make sure to get a close-up so you guys can check that out. And these are sculpted by Gentle Giant Studios, according to the packaging, so good on them, because some of these are really beautiful. Come around here to the side, you get that same kind of high-tech looking Gordon, and then of course Batman Arkham Knight Commissioner Gordon number 8. Good stuff there. And I just said the top has the Batman armor, which looks really nice. Bottom, just all the legal stuff. Who cares? But what we do care about is old Jimbo here a cool character or not. So let's get the Commissioner out and get a closer look at him. And here's Jim Gordon out of the packaging. And just right off the bat, I really like the way this character looks. It does have some trouble. But again, that's like with any figure. You have some good and you have some bad. But even though this is from the Batman Arkham Knight video game, I really like the sculpt on this figure. I've heard other people say that they're sort of on it. But in terms of just, you know, your normal, well, this is kind of 7-inch. I think this is the more closest to Jim Gordon that I could find. The only other one that I would have thought of getting was the Hush one, but that one has some articulation problems I just do not want to get into. So with that said, now we've kind of had a chance to see him out of his packaging. Let's get him off the spinner and get a closer look at this character. Now, Gordon's first appearance was way back in May of 1939 in Detective Comics number 27. So this guy is a little ancient, and that's okay, because Gordon, I always feel like, is the antithesis. Well, not really the antithesis, but kind of like the mirror opposite of Batman. As where Batman goes outside the law, Gordon always tries to say that the book is going to work. Now, what was interesting, you know, pre-crisis around the Detective Comics is he initially resented the Cape Crusader in the beginning. And I kind of feel like they made him a little too, I don't know if bubbly is the right word, but he just didn't feel as much of a character as we're just sort of like a background prop. And we'll get into that here in a moment. His daughter is Barbara Gordon. And so she became Batgirl down the line. And then after the Killing Joke, she became Oracle. But this is all after post-crisis. Now, when we focus on Gordon, post-crisis, in Batman Year 1, which was issues 404 through 407, I feel like he became more of a well-rounded character because he had flaws, as you saw in Year 1, and as we just talked about in The Killing Joke, his daughter was paralyzed by the Joker. And then as we get into more modern comics, his second wife, Sarah Essen, who he met in Year 1, was killed by the Joker in Detective Comics 741 during No Man's Land. So he has had all this tragedy like Batman happen to him, and yet he still wants to try to live by the code, the strict word of the law. And that's why I think a lot of people really enjoy him for that reason. Now, after Flashpoint during the New 52, they did make him a little bit younger because through the early Detective Comics, they tried to show that he was retiring. There's even a little stint. I don't remember what issues it is. If you guys can remember, let me know down in the comments. But he was struggling with, I think it was lung cancer or something like that because of the way he smoked. But I'm kind of glad they retconned that. And he still, even though he's younger in the New 52 and moving into Flashpoint, he still has all his traits, which I really appreciate. So there's lots of great Jim Gordon stories. Make sure to check them out. Now, for the figure, let's start with the accessories. He comes with an extra hand, which is kind of like an open hand, which, you know, that way if there's any shenanigans, he just he gonna smack you. It's just an open hand, which is kind of neat, but it's only the left hand. Kind of get close up on it here for you guys. Yeah, that way. In the skin tone, it's all right. I mean, it looks kind of flesh toned, but you know, there's sort of kind of things that are sort of but overall, I mean, it's nice to have. I always like accessories, so I can't complain too much about the hand. He also comes with a radio, which, you know, they didn't put a whole lot of detail into it, but they at least put the button and the microphone and the antennas and the channel switchers. So, you know, not a whole lot to it, but it's nice to have. I just wish there was somewhere to put it on him. There's nowhere to attach it. It would have been kind of cool if you could attach it to his belt, but, you know, c'est la vie, because, you know, I'm a stickler about that. The last thing he does come with is a gun, probably more than likely either a 45 or a 9mm. Let me know what you guys think this looks like down in the comments. I like that gunmetal gray. I feel like a little bit of a black wash would have been nice on it, but at least there's the trigger guard. The trigger itself has the hammer. You can kind of see where not the head. I always forget what this part is, you know, the part that where it actually fires the gun. I always forget what this part's called. So, you know, both sides. Nice detail. I like a little bit of line work there. At least makes it look like a gun. And then what I do appreciate is when you bring Gordon in, he does have a gun holster under his arm. And you got to lift his arm a little bit so it doesn't add some pressure on it. And it fits in like so. But that kind of comes into the first problem with Gordon is his arms do not go all the way down. Especially on this side with the holsters, you can only go down that far. So it's kind of like, it kind of reminds me of those bodybuilders that, you know, they're so buff that they can't put their arms on their side anymore, but Gordon is not. So I kind of wish they would have maybe made his shoulders a little bit wider so you can at least get him down where he's actually flush with the rest of his body. So that's kind of a ding on my point. It just kind of starts to kind of kill the illusion of the articulation. We'll get in more into that. That's just one of my biggest beefs. But as for paint apps and sculpting, these glasses are nice. They don't come off, but I'm glad that they at least made it look like it wraps around the ear. The clearness of it, that's really good. Mustache, nice and fancy and in charge. The nose looks good. The paint apps, he does look really pale. I kind of wish they maybe would have made it a little bit darker, but that's neither here nor there. The hair, I like that there's gray with a little bit of a, well, it's mostly light gray with a kind of a dark gray dry brush, as I like to call it. So it kind of adds that age to his look. So not bad there. Ugh, kind of got some loose paint there, but whatever. His shirt, not bad. Again, they have kind of that gray brush on it. So that looks good. Makes it look like a nice worn, like, you know, he's been out in the field. And again, the skin, like I said, this looks really pale. So I kind of wish they would have darkened it up a little bit. You see what I mean? But then again, I'm super pale, so I can't really complain too much. I love the badge on his belt. That looks so cool. The ripples really add an effect. And I'm glad, but be careful, that his tie is loose and it's all murky like he's been running. So just be careful when you're moving him around that you don't snap that off. The gun holster, I like that, again, the holster there. Get some clips there. They don't remove, which is okay, because, I mean, there's no way to really slam them into the chamber. So it's just there for aesthetic, which is okay. Come around to the back. I like how it shows that it actually connects here on the back. That's okay. Looks nice all around. Pants have that nice brown look. Belt, I like that it has that little silver buckle. And, you know, just because the black here differentiates and kind of gives a whole different layer of the pants, belt, shirt. I'm glad they kind of put pockets on the butt so it at least looks natural instead of like just tagging the figure, you know, like copyright, blah, blah, blah. I hate when they do that. Shoes. These look like your normal detective sleuth shoes, so a nice dress shoe going on there. And I like that they actually kind of put, I know it's hard to see, actually put some laces in there, so that's cool. Appreciate that. So the paint apps overall and the sculpting, I think look great. Like I said, I wish they kind of would have darkened up the skin tone, but it is what it is. Now the articulation is kind of where I start to lose this figure, sadly, because he has so much opportunity to be a cool articulated character. Now, as we just talked about, I wish his arms would go all the way down, but between this and not being able to widen the shoulders, that limits him. So we'll get into arms here in a minute. His head can look down that much, which is really cool. But even though he's on a ball joint, he can't look up. It's like, come on, man. But at least you can kind of get a nice range this way, you know, so at least you get some good range on the head. Now, because of these little shoulder arcs here, you can't, well, you can go all the way up that way, but when you twist this up, it limits him here instead of being able to go full 90 degrees. So, it is what it is. And at least, well, not at least, but single jointed elbows. Come on, who wants single jointed elbows? You know what I mean? So that's frustrating. At least the hands spin 360 and they do go up and down, so you at least have that option. His waist, he has it right here at the mid torso, so you can kind of spin him that way and that way. I tried heating him up, and that's as far as I can get him to go. There's no more there. And even though he looks like almost a line here, you'd think you could spin him there as well. No. Oh. So no ab crunch, even though he has that thing. So his legs do go out that far that way, which is nice. But the problem is, you come this way, you can only kick that far forward and about that far backwards. So, and then this is where it really kills me. Single jointed knees. Come on. Because if you know you want to put him into a kneeling position while he's firing his gun, you need that range of motion. This sort of kills it. But unlike the McFarlane series that are coming out, he at least has an upper thigh cut. I would have gone for a boot cut too, but that is always a welcome addition. So you can at least make the legs look somewhat natural in that sense. His feet don't really go up or down, but there are some pivoting on it, as you can see. So at least we have that. And that's the articulation in a nutshell. We are very much limited, and it's kind of like, come on, guys. But yeah, McFarlane, upper thigh cuts and boot cuts. We very much need those on these modern figures. And then the last thing I do want to mention here, and I think I said it a moment ago, but I'm going to say it again. Where's his trench coat? That's always a thing that he needs. Now for some size comparisons. Here's Gordon next to the DC Jim Lee series Sated Shell Batman. And as you can see, they both scale relatively well. I like that this Batman looks a little more large and in charge because he's supposed to kind of tower and have this power about him. So that's okay that he's a little bit taller than Gordon. I think these two look great together. And then go into the tormentor of Gordon's life, both, you know, paralyzing his daughter, killing his second wife. Here is the McFarlane Toys Joker, which I love this one. This is from Arkham Asylum, so these are both from kind of the same game series, but they're both comic accurate. I kind of wish, you know, this one is 7 inches. This is supposed to be 7 inches too, but as you can see, the size on these shows that maybe this Gordon's actually maybe 6.5. I'm not gonna start breaking out the tape measure and doing all that. Sorry, that's not my bag. But nonetheless, these are welcomed additions. And if you start playing with, what do you call it, perspective, it's not going to look too bad. So you kind of put Joker there in the back, and that doesn't look too bad there. And when you start getting up close in photography, or even if you're going to put them on a shelf, that's going to look nice. Now, as I was talking about earlier, when we talked about the new 52 and how they kind of make Gordon younger, here is the DC designers Greg Capullo Jim Gordon. And as you can see, they actually gave him his hair color back in the new 52. But looking at these, I always prefer the older Gordon because he's kind of street hardened, as you find in year 1. This one is too, but he's still kind of finding his way. So when I look at these two, still great pieces, don't get me wrong. I'd like to know who sculpted this one, as where this was based off the Greg Capullo comics from the new 52. But still, I like this one because I like an older, hardened Gordon So what do you guys think? Which one here do you like? What do y'all think of the scaling that I just did? I'd love to hear your thoughts down in the comments below. Overall, I believe this Gordon is an awesome figure. Now, yes, I'll just blatantly say I hate the articulation on him. Though, I will say, even though he at least has the upper thigh cut, so you can at least move his legs around to kind of get more posability that way. But single jointed elbows, you know, lack of the torso thing. He can move here, but I was hoping that you can move him here. And I've tried heating that up, as I said, and nothing. But the single jointed elbows and the single jointed legs, I think, are the things that really chap my hide the most. Because you can't get him down into like a crouching shooting pose without a stand, and you're just kind of like, come on. It makes you appreciate where the articulation has come to, you know, in modern figures, but then again, they have their problems too. Again, I'd say this figure, I'm going to give an 8 out of 10 because I like the way it's sculpted. Paint apps are nice. Just some of the articulation really... And I think that kind of sums it up for me. If you want a cheaper Gordon that's semi-comic accurate... Oh, and the other thing, as I said, I wish he would have came with a trench coat. Because that's just kind of his trademark. You know what I mean? So anyway, I'd like to hear what you guys think. So if you've enjoyed this figure, please first and foremost check with your local comic shop and see if they can order this for you. And if you've enjoyed this review, we really would appreciate if you take a moment to hit like, share, and subscribe. Helps the club channel more than you could possibly know. And if you wouldn't mind hitting that fancy little GCPD bell next to subscribe, that way as we continue to upload content, you guys will get notified. Come to the channel, and we love to talk with y'all and hear your thoughts down in the comments below or our social media pages, which I'll make sure to leave the links down in the description below. So with all that said, thank you all so much for stopping by. Hope you all continue to have an absolutely amazing day reading, and happy hunting, true believers.